Hey, what's going on, good people? This your boy Brandon, aka FF Clay, back with another video. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the good things for the algorithm. And I'm trying a different approach today, so you guys let me know what you think about it. You guys let me know what you think, and just like, comment, share, subscribe, feedback, constructive criticism. I'm just experimenting, trying to find my way and what it looks like for me. And I wanted to touch briefly on what you see today on my screen. It's a saying that came to me that I've heard before, but it accurately describes where I am currently in my life. And it came as I just was reflecting on the place that I'm in, the place I've been in for a little minute. And it just really is a place of uncertainty, but I'm learning to become comfortable with being uncomfortable and not knowing, but being certain and having a quiet and a peaceful, joyful conviction about myself, and being okay with not knowing where I'm at or what to do or what exactly the next move is. And it's really difficult for me. It's because it's like a conundrum. I have like the linear reasoning, left brain way of thinking and pragmatism that I have about myself, as far as just, taking care of business, A to B, just the part of us that likes security, even if it's uncomfortable or not ideal. It's just the idea of security because we don't like being uncomfortable. But this security, if it's matrix based in this 3D realm, is not really security at all. But then you have the mystic and the intuitive in me that just wants to just fly my wings and just let go and just be led forth by God, spirit, consciousness, whatever you call it, whatever title you give them. And so it's like a conundrum and it's a fight. It's because in the past I have taken leaps of faith where I felt like I was carrying it out in obedience to what God had spoken to me. And I'm not saying that he did or he didn't. Maybe he did. Maybe it was my interpretation. Maybe it was my ego. Maybe it was a whole number of things that involved in things not turning out the way that I thought that they should look like. So even if it was my false expectation, what have you. But then nevertheless, it incurred a lot of trauma because it's not just me that is being affected by these decisions, but it's magnified when you have the weight of a family whose quality of life and what they are used to is affected by the decisions that you do make, for good or for bad. And so I have that compounded with that, and just the trauma, emotional trauma of working through past experiences. And so now where I'm at now is just like I said, I'm becoming more comfortable with not knowing what the next move is. I'm becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm moving more so from a left brain centered paradigm to a right side, and just learning to live holistically with the synchronicity and the merging of the two. And it's a process. And so I said all of that to say is that I had a vision. And if you've listened to any of my previous videos, you know that I like to liken reality to a simulation, matrix, video game, what have you, movie, what have you. And we are thrust in the center of it, but simultaneously we are in it, but we're also outside of it, observing and affecting what does or doesn't happen. And the way that I see life now is that before, I used to have to know the next move or the next 10 moves and the destination and how to get there from A to Z for me to even make the next step. And that resulted in a lot of ego and willpower and self-effort, labor and toil that more often than not, it didn't work. And when it even appeared to work, it came with such pain and such toil, and it was short-lived, because the same amount of energy that you have to exert to influence reality, when you are living in the ego or the flesh, you have to exert 10 to 15 to 20 times more in order to maintain it. And after a while, that gets exhausting. And though we are co-creators of this reality, we don't have total authority. So that means that we control our experience to a certain degree, but there are still things that are out of our realm of control, and so things fall apart. Ultimately, so that we know who is in control and to get us on a greater path. And so a lot of times, if we continue to resist and fight against that, then we experience more struggle, more pain, more turmoil, and then we wind up having more trauma and more things to deal with, and we make things harder than they really have to be. Said all that to say that that's what brings us to this picture right here. And it just says that faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. And how that ties in is that when I think of that, I think of if we are in a simulation or a video game, or we've seen movies where, like for instance, you can think a thought and then it materializes right before you. And so that's how I see reality, and that's how I've been experiencing it. It's like in me learning how to let go and be more intuitive and flow. And that's not to mean to be airy-fairy or irresponsible or even lazy, but to learn how to live from the inside out. It's like I don't have to know the next step, but in me having an intention or a desire or something that I want to obtain, or something that it is that I want to do, or something, like I said, an intention. In holding that intention, I don't have to know the how. I don't know have to know the when. But in just sometimes I can think a thought, and before I can finish the thinking, or shortly after, the materialization have come, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an insight, whether it comes to me, whether I come across it. Some people call it synchronicity. Some people call it signs. There are different myriads of ways that I've seen the manifestations of the next step, or even the fulfillment of what it is that what was an invisible intention or desire, or I would say a slight goal just moments before. And so I was thinking about that. And then this quote from Martin Luther King came, and I'm learning to not just allow it to be rare occurrences, but how I live my life. And it is very freeing. It's very liberating. It can be scary sometimes until you learn how to let go. And it's not an all or nothing, black or white thing. It's in varying degrees where we grow and we learn to trust incrementally. But ultimately, I believe it's the way that we are meant to live. And so, I was just going to just cover this right here, but I had jumped on Facebook real quick, and on my timeline, what I was just talking about, synchronicities, two other things just popped up in my timeline and in my feed that I had never saw before, but they are in line with what it is I'm talking about now. And this one says that there is pleasure in the pathless woods. And I was just like, wow, that is crazy, because that's what I'm talking about, is not having a path or direction. But that does not mean that you're aimless. You don't have to know, and you have to be okay with not knowing in your mind or your ego or after the flesh, because that is this matrix 3D based realm. It's a way of doing things, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with reason, within reason, pun intended, because there are things that where you do have to have rational thinking or reasoning or logical thinking, but overall, our life is not meant to be lived that way. We're not to live through the conscious mind, but the unconscious mind through the spirit of who we really are. We really just need our mind to formulate goals or provide direction, to assess certain things, but it's not necessarily to it can seek the answer, but it's not to provide the answer. So it's really just more so for of a direction or a aim. And so I was saying that, I was just like, wow, it was just confirmation of synchronicity of what I'm talking about and covering. And then this last one says that as soon as you learn to trust yourself, you will know how to live. And when I hear the yourself is not the myself or identity after the ego or the flesh, it's not me more so of Brandon, government name, but it's more so of the divinity of God that is within us, that still small, quiet voice. Some people may call it God. Some people call it Christ. Some people call it Jesus. Some people call it essence, consciousness, energy, what have you, universe. Insert here whatever you're comfortable with. But it's again, like I said, it's a process of learning to become uncomfortable. It's really more so a process of unlearning rather than learning, to peel back the layers that have accumulated on this as a result of us going through this life of the essential nature of who we really are. And the more we get to know and trust and love and be at peace and comfort with who we are innately on the inside and live from that place, then we will have no problem living from the inside out, not necessarily having a logical path, but just knowing and having a conviction, a quiet, still confidence, peace, and joyful about ourselves, about the end result. And we let the path unveil itself as we go, like a simulation. We know that thoughts materialize. What we think, we create and come about. And even though it's invisible, it's tangible. So the invisible tangible will be made tangible, but it's as we go. Again, this is your boy FF Clay. Like, share, comment, subscribe, provide feedback. Until next time, peace.